Welcome to Bonnie's Beat. I'm your host, Bonnie Squires. We're coming to you from Radnor Studio 21 in beautiful downtown Wayne. And we'd like to expose you to academia, medicine, charities, anything interesting that impacts on the community. And our guest today is Phillip D. Robinson, who is a fellow of the, wait a minute, let me get it right, of the American College of Healthcare Executives, and he happens to be president of the Lankanaw Medical Center, and they put up this new heart pavilion, and we're going to find out all about it. Hi, Phil. Welcome.
Hi, Bonnie.
Welcome to Wayne.
Glad to be here.
The Lankanaw Hospital, it's got a rich history in this area. Lankanaw, Bryn Mawr, Mainline Health, it's all part of the same system, right?
Right.
And there's another, is this part of the, should I say Jefferson?
We're part of the Jefferson Health System.
Jefferson
right?
Health System. I
Right.
got that right.
Right.
Good. Okay. How long has Lankanaw been around?
We just are about to celebrate our 153rd anniversary.
153.
Yes.
Woo, that's impressive.
Yes.
Very impressive. And still solvent.
Absolutely.
That's the most amazing thing. I mean, recessions come and go, and
Yes.
Lankanaw is putting up new buildings all the time.
Yes.
So tell us, whose brilliant idea was it to consolidate all the heart services? And did you have a revolution from the guys at Bryn Mawr? What do you mean we have to move to Lankanaw?
Well, what was done about 10 years ago is there was the vision that we would build a new heart pavilion at Lankanaw that would really match the level of services that we've historically provided there. So, you know, we have a big heart surgery program. We train cardiologists there. We have a fellowship program. We have a very large research institute there that does a lot of heart research. So the thinking was, let's build a building that sort of matches the caliber of work that we're doing on all fronts, from education, research, and clinical care. So I can't take credit for planning the building. I got here about 3 years ago when it was all, we were just about to break ground. And so, but what we've done is we've really built a destination for heart care that matches, I think, the level of service that we've provided, for the community for a long time.
One of your heart specialists used to be my next door neighbor. In fact, our houses were attached, Dr. Tim Shapiro. And there's a little 4-minute video that your
Yes.
gal Bridget just showed me that's very impressive.
Yeah, it was a video that we produced for the grand opening of the pavilion in July, and it features Dr. Shapiro and a few of our other cardiologists, and also some of the other physicians on the staff, like John Marks and a few others, and
nurses.
and nurses,
And patients.
and patients, and it talks about the thinking behind me and my boss Jack Lynch. And it talks about the thinking behind the building, what the building means to us, how many people, donors and others, supported the building, how much thought was put into the planning of the building and the rooms by the staff.
You want to tell us how much a new heart pavilion costs to build?
Well, the whole master facility plan was about $465 million.
Woo!
But that included a lot of things beyond the new building. The building is probably half that cost. And then we put in.
It's only $200 million. Right. Oh, well, I'll write a check right now.
Well, we built a new power plant. We built all new cath labs. We renovated the emergency department. We did so many other things that needed to be done. We moved onto that campus back in 1953. And so a lot of our infrastructure is that old and needed to be updated. And in fact, I don't know if you know, but the campus was originally the Overbrook Country Club before they moved west.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, and the Lankanaw people bought it.
And I'm a native of this area, but don't remember that.
Yeah, bought it and moved out to Wynwood in 1953. They had been down in Center City before that.
Huh. You mentioned the word emergency. That brings to mind Hurricane Sandy.
Yes.
What happens when there's a violent storm? And we've had a lot of them recently. My mother's convinced that it's because of global warming, and that's why. There are people in the Texas legislature, where you're from, Phil, who would disagree there is no such thing as global warming. But I know you're a reasonable, rational guy, and you agree that there is global warming. But what happens when all the power is knocked out everywhere, and you've got people that are on life support, that have all these machines, and you need electricity? What does a place like Lankenau and Bryn Mawr and Jefferson, what do they do?
Well, all of the hospitals have certain requirements for emergency power, and we all have emergency command centers that we build in the facilities that are powered off of generators. So we have a whole bunch of generators that power our emergency equipment so that we have oxygen, that we can run the operating rooms, that we can run the ICUs, that we can really continue on in business even if we lose power. And of course, we've learned some lessons based on Sandy that we needed to have more emergency supplies on stock, on hand, and be more prepared.
How long can emergency generators or whatever you have, how long could they last?
Well, we
Nobody
have,
expected to be out. I mean, there were places that were out for a week or more.
you have to at least be able to run, I think it's for 3 to 5 days, but you know, they're all fueled off of gas or diesel fuel. So, you know, you would have a supply and you would keep the generators going as long as you needed to power. Now, it doesn't mean it runs everything. So not all the equipment runs, but the essential equipment to keep people well and alive would run during the storm.
The candy machines, if they're electric.
No, not the candy
We don't need to have them, no.
But I'll tell you, you know, the other thing is when you keep your hospital open, you have to take care of your employees, because you have to staff during an emergency too. So you have to worry about the employees, their families,
how they get there, if they have to stay there and sleep there.
And if we have to keep them, like during Sandy, we had hundreds of people that stayed over, so you have to feed them. You have to, get them there. So there's a lot of
bathroom facilities.
Absolutely. So you have to really think about running a small city, for a period of time during these kind of situations. And at the system level, we coordinate all of our emergency services at Mainline Health, and then we also coordinate at the Jefferson level too. And then, the county and the state are very involved in those things as well.
They have to be.
And Montgomery County is very well prepared. For
I think Delaware County is also.
Delaware County is, and Philadelphia. And then the whole Southeast Pennsylvania, we work together collaboratively. So we all, sort of work together as one unit.
How many employees are there in Lankenau Hospital?
We have about 2,200 employees.
2,200?
Yes.
Ooh. What about Bryn Mawr?
Bryn Mawr has about the same number, maybe about 2,100. And the whole system, we have about 10,000.
Big employer.
A big employer for the region. And, if you think about, too, like for instance, at Lankenau, we also have 4 medical office buildings on the campus. So all of those doctors work there. They all have employees. On any given day at Lankenau, we have about 5,000 people there. So it's really like running a small city.
And a lot of cars.
A lot of cars.
A lot of parking spaces.
Well, we built a new parking garage. I don't think I mentioned that, but we added 1,300 parking spots because that has been a problem for us in the past. We're kind of isolated on that campus.
Right.
And so you have to
People
really...
can't park on Lancaster Avenue and walk up the hill.
No.
They'll never get there.
No, but there'll be a cardiologist there if they do.
Yeah, that's right.
Tim Shapiro will be there waiting for them.
Now, let's find out a little bit about Phil Robinson.
Okay.
From Texas. Where in Texas?
Grew up in Houston.
And where did you go to college?
I went to Texas A&M.
Surprise, surprise.
For undergraduate, and then I went to Washington University in St. Louis.
Oh, my niece went to Washington.
Yeah, it's a great school. I did my graduate work there.
And what was your graduate work in?
In health administration. It was, back when I went to school 35 years ago, it was one of the few, and certainly the best health administration programs in the country.
What motivated, because your father's not a doctor.
No,
he's
a Methodist minister.
Methodist minister.
Right.
Was there pressure put on you to join the family business?
No.
No? Okay.
Never considered it, honestly.
All right.
But I was very fortunate when I was in high school to work in a big hospital in Houston, the Methodist Hospital, which is the largest hospital in Houston. And my work there, I got to know a lot of the administrative staff, and I sort of fell in love with the business and decided that that's what I wanted to do. And my mentor was at that point was an executive there, but he ultimately became the president, and he took an interest in me, and wanted to make sure that I went to Washington U, which is where he had been. So I've really only done this. When I was in high school, I worked in the hospital administrative suite. When I was in college, I worked at the hospitals in the summer. When I got out of graduate school, I went back to Houston and started my career at the Methodist Hospital. And so for almost 34 years now, I've been doing this.
What attracted you to Lankona Hospital?
Well, it's a funny story because I had started consulting. I had been doing this for a while and been running hospitals, being the head of a hospital for over 20 years. And I decided to maybe try something else, do some consulting. Joined a firm, and my second engagement was to come up here and be the interim president of Lankona.
Was that culture shock for you?
No, actually, I loved it. I really, I had no intention of staying, but I fell in love with the hospital and the community and the system. I know Jack Lynch we were friends from Houston many years ago, but we had never worked together. But I fell in love with the place. And so after about 6 or 9 months, they asked me if I would consider staying. And so here I am, a displaced Texan up in, the Philadelphia area, and I love it.
You don't sound like you're from Texas.
I've lived a lot of places. I could
places.
certainly put it on if you wanted me to.
Yeah, let me hear you say something in
Well, Bonnie,
Texas.
I grew up in Houston, and
And you knew Ann Richards.
no, I didn't know her, but I certainly knew who she was. But I've lived in a bunch of states. I lived in Florida, Louisiana, Virginia. Now I'm living in Pennsylvania. Went to school in Missouri, so I've lived all over the place.
Well, I do know West Palm and Palm Beach because
Yes.
my parents wintered
Yeah.
there forever. So
Yeah, I ran JFK Medical Center there, which
That's
is
a biggie, biggie,
big
biggie.
hospital there, and it's actually in Atlantis, but that's a tiny little place, but it's right next to West Palm.
yeah. Did you like Florida?
Loved it. Loved it.
What's not to love?
it's-
Especially when we got 4 feet of snow up here. Then I
well,
could
the year
see.
when we had 5 hurricanes, that
Oh, that
I
is
did
a
not love
problem.
that, but it
That
gave
is
me
a
good
problem.
practice for Sandy and for I've had a lot of experience.
That's true.
If I have to draw upon it.
That's true. So the Pavilion just opened in July.
Mm-hmm.
What services are offered at the new Lankona Heart Pavilion?
Well, on the first 2 floors, we have all the
How many floors are
It's
there?
5 floors.
5 stories.
And the first floor, at the lowest level, is the diagnostic cardiology area. So we consolidated all heart testing other than the cath lab into that area. So any of your ambulatory testing that you would have with echoes or stress tests or nuclear cardiology, it's all consolidated there. Very convenient. We have valet parking. We have a garage right across the street.
Valet parking is so important.
It is very
It
important.
really is.
And it doesn't cost any more to valet than it does to park in the garage. And so the ground floor is the diagnostic cardiology. On the second floor of the new building, we brought all 40 of our cardiologists into one location. So now we brought the doctors to the patient instead of the patient to the doctors. So for instance, if you need to see your cardiologist, but he needs to consult with Dr. Shapiro, who we mentioned earlier, or needs to consult with a heart surgeon, they're all right there.
How do you decide which physician, if you've got 40 all clumped together, how do you decide which one gets the corner office with the window?
Well,
And do you have a lottery?
That was a process. That was a process.
I won. I get the third floor.
I think they're all
East
happy.
wing.
I think they're all happy with where they ended up. It's a beautiful building, and it's all, it's very open, and there's a lot of natural light, and the views from all the rooms are beautiful. Most of them are out on the woods, in the back 40 acres
Yeah.
of Lankona, which was the old golf course. It's beautiful. So
Back 40.
yeah, there's 40 more acres behind the hospital.
40 more acres. Is there a 25-year plan
No.
that has something that's going to go up there?
No, I don't think so. I think we have the ability to build one more office building if we desire, but I don't think we need to really do that. And we work with Friends Central. They use a lot of that for their sports fields and stuff. So we have a good relationship with them.
And across the street, the seminary
Yes.
is now going to sell off like 40 acres.
Yeah, I heard that.
We don't know for what. Housing, I assume.
I know, and they also are redeveloping the Palmer Seminary there on the
Right
corner
next door to you, and that's
into
gonna be-
apartments, and then we're gonna redevelop the old chapel for some physician office space. They're right there on the corner of City at Lancaster.
Oh, very interesting. Yeah, the Palmer, that was an interesting story, how the librarian unearthed some manuscript from hundreds of years ago.
Yes.
I forget what it was,
That was
Mozart?
Mozart.
Mozart.
They found Mozart
and,
manuscripts.
And they found that he had written on
Yes.
that, and they sold it for what, like $2 million, which is why they moved from that location to wherever they moved to. They had a fistful of money to work with after that.
And then the rest of the building, the upper 3 floors, are for patients. We have 96 new private rooms.
Every room is private?
Every room is private, and we're converting the whole hospital to private rooms. So we moved into the new facility. We're now
Amazing.
converting all the rooms, so we'll be totally private.
There's
something I wanted-
nothing like that in the Philadelphia region, is
No,
there?
and I think that's the goal for all the mainline hospitals, is to ultimately have all private rooms at all of our hospitals. So I think that's going to take a while, but I think that is what people want, and I think
Makes a big difference.
yes.
I've been in a private room after surgery, and then I had to be in a semi-private room. And the semi-private room, forget it. Oh, wow.
Well, that I've always
But they say
wanted.
semi-private, but if you've got a piece of cloth between you and the next bed, and the next person is really so ill, I mean, I felt for her, but I felt more for me, and they just couldn't find it. Wasn't at Lankenau. It was another unnamed hospital that couldn't find a private room for me. After 10 days in a private room, went home, had to go back to the hospital, and then I spent 4 nights, and I told my surgeon, I'm going to die if I have to stay here and listen to this poor soul in the bed next to me. Send me home.
Well,
So,
there's privacy issues, there's infection control issues, there's
That's
family
true.
issues,
Yeah.
there's cultural issues. There's just so many reasons that a private room really is the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
So we're going to have all private rooms. 2 of the floors are telemetry acute care, and then the top floor is an intensive care. So we have a new 32 bed intensive care unit on the top of the building. State of the art, incredible space for the family. Every room we put in a couch. We don't have those sleeper chairs. We put a real couch.
There's the important question. How many flat screen TVs do you have in the private rooms?
1.
How big?
I don't know how big they are.
Because you have to compete with the
They're
new.
about this big.
You have to compete with the new Morgan dorm at Temple University, where every suite and every room has a 41-inch flat screen HD TV.
They're maybe not that big, but they're a nice size for both the patient and the family to see. And we even put them in the ICU because it's important for people in the ICU to reorient. So they need to know what time of day it is. It's good for them to have the
and what's
visual
happening, and whether we
simulation.
bombed Syria that day or not. You know, you have to be prepared for those things.
Well, I was thinking of the weather report.
Oh, okay. Or the weather report, or if the Phillies won, or if
Or
the
Phillies
Eagles
or the
lost.
Eagles, right.
Yeah, that's important
So
stuff.
we took, when we planned the building, again, we involved a lot of the staff, but we actually built a prototype of the room 2 years before we opened the building, and we used it. So it wasn't just a mock-up, it was a real room, and we kept tweaking the design the whole time. So the nurses and the doctors gave us feedback, and the patients gave us feedback. So I feel really good about.
There are more than doctors, nurses, and
Absolutely.
patients. There are so many other types of people that work in a
Absolutely.
hospital. Did they all have a say
Absolutely.
also? Did they get to pick colors?
Well, you know, we let them have input. You know, you have to.
Okay.
Those kind of decisions by committee sometimes get a little dicey, but we try to keep the palette in the building all very natural. So there's a lot of wood and stone and natural surfaces, really kind of neutral. You know, we tried not to make it where it would look too dated over time. Our hospital, when it was built in the 50s, was very famous. It was one of the first air-conditioned hospitals in the country.
Oh, really?
It was featured in Architectural Digest as the hospital of the future. So we tried to really stay with some of the original, you know, elements from the mid-century, and not make it look too dated. And I think we did a good job with that.
What's the best thing you found about being transplanted from Houston and West Palm to Wynwood?
I think the culture that exists at Lankenau and in Mainline Health is a culture of excellence The doctors are so committed to the patients and each other. There's a lot of collegiality between the physicians. Having been in big academic medical centers early in my career, you don't always find that. You find great doctors and great clinical care.
And great egos.
And great egos, but you don't find a lot of great service, a lot of great care, and it's a package. It's not just the technical capabilities of the people, but it's also, do they take care of you? Do they care about you? Are you in a caring environment? And I think that's one of the things that I'm really impressed with. And also that people are so nice here. People really want you to enjoy and like this community and feel a part of this community. I don't think I've ever moved to a place where people really wanted you to like it and really to fit in and really to get to know the community. I think it's one of the real positives about this area.
It's nice to hear, because usually anybody from the Philadelphia region gets, and I think it's a bum rap, but they say they're born here, they go through school here, they have the same group of friends from kindergarten through college, they never open up, they die, and they never move away, and they don't let anybody into their circle. And that's not been my experience.
No, mine either.
Okay, glad to hear that.
No, I've found just the opposite. I think I think Philadelphia does get a bum rap because I don't think people really understand what a nice place it is to live. And maybe it gets painted with the broader brush of the Northeast, and you just say it's all the same, but it isn't. It's much different, I think. It's a much nicer and more welcoming environment.
With your title as president of the Lankona Medical Center, there must be a lot of charities that tried to latch onto you as soon as you unpacked your suitcase and say, would you join our board? Did you say yes to any of them?
Well, I've said yes to a couple. I wanted to make sure that I was focused on doing my job first, and I've done this before, where you move into a community and you get so involved so quickly, it kind of takes away your focus. I wanted to focus on getting this building built and doing that. So I've recently joined the advisory board for Rosemont College. I'm about to join the board, or been asked to join the board at Sandras House.
Which is your neighbor.
Yes, and it's a long-term care facility, which is something that I'm very interested in.
And it's had some famous denizens at Sandras House,
Absolutely.
namely our former governor,
Yes.
Milton Schaap,
Yes.
and his wife, Muriel, was there every single day.
Well,
while he was there.
it's a wonderful place, and given Lankenau's proximity, it's a nice. So I was very flattered when they asked me if I would work with them, and I'm involved in our local professional society. I also am involved at a national level on a couple of things. I'm on the Alumni Association Board for Washington U, the Health Administration Program, and I, at Texas A&M, run the Development Council for the School of Public Health, which is a top 25 school of public health in the country.
And you've picked up a couple of awards along the way, too.
Yeah.
Let me see. I know I read about them. Here we go. I like this one. Modern Healthcare's Up-and-Comer Award in '92. I love it. And your alma mater, Washington University, Outstanding Alumnus Award in 2007.
Yes.
Any other awards on the horizon?
Oh gosh, I don't know. The Modern Healthcare Award meant a lot, then, because you had to be under 40, and they identified folks that were, up and comers. That was 20 years ago. So I guess I'm kind of past that period. I think being honored by your school is always a really important thing, especially a school as prestigious as Washington U. I was very flattered to be honored like that. I wrote a book last year.
Ooh, now that I'm really impressed with.
Yeah, I wrote a book about all my experiences with disaster planning. You asked about that earlier, but having grown up on the Gulf Coast and been in Texas and Louisiana and Florida so many years, I had a lot of experience with hurricanes and disasters. And when I was in West Palm, I ran the hospital that had the anthrax patient. So I wrote a whole chapter about my experience with that.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, the decimation of Katrina, what it did to all of those Gulf area states, is just. I mean, it just wiped out whole industries, wiped out whole towns, just unbelievable. And New Orleans, to this day, New Orleans, if you leave the French Quarter, it still looks like a war zone.
Yeah, it's not. It'll never be the same.
It's just, and you've got all these do-gooders, you know, like Brad and Angelina that are down there. A lot of movie stars, Sean Penn, and they've been building, but the federal government just can't do enough fast enough to help people go back to where they were. And then they were somebody from New Orleans. They want to go back to New Orleans,
Yeah.
but they've got nothing to go back to right now.
Yeah, it's not the same place as it was when I
No.
lived there. I lived there before Katrina, so you know when I go back there, I'm really shocked because it's so different.
Yeah, it's we'll have to pray for New Orleans and all the Gulf Coast states to come back eventually, but it's going to take a long time.
But you can see from New Jersey that was a Category 1 storm. You know, Katrina was a 4, Andrew was a 5 that hit Miami. You know, and just it's really devastating when you see what those storms can do.
But New Jersey is stronger than the storm. And since I spend a lot of weekends
Yes.
down the shore,
Yes.
I can tell you that they have come back
They have
strong.
come back. They have come
They
back.
have come back. And now that they got Miss America, are you going to get a piece of the Miss America pageant? Get Miss America to come and show her heart at the
I don't know. I hadn't thought about it, but I may have to.
Well, I'm giving you a good idea.
have to follow up on that.
Or maybe you'll have a Miss Lankanaw, you know, a Miss Heart Pavilion contest. When you opened your doors just a month ago, did you actually have patients there?
Yeah, we, you know, it's the middle of the summer, and you know that's our slow
A lot
time
of people are away.
in this part of the world. But we did fill up the ICU almost immediately in the new rooms. We are renovating some of the older units, so we took advantage of the slower time, you know, to sort of go back into the units that we moved out of to spruce them up a little bit. We usually pick up after the holidays in September and after Labor Day, so we're already starting to see the volumes, you know, creep back up.
And you'll probably pick up some customers from people who are demonstrating against the governor because there's not enough funding for the schools, and they have to open, you know, without textbooks, without, you know, school aides, without nurses. How did you feel when you found out that Philadelphia schools laid off all the school nurses to save money? I mean, talk about penny wise and pound foolish.
I know in most communities, what I've seen is a public-private partnership, you know, with that, where I know in Florida, the hospitals and the others help, you know, cover some of those bases when they had budgetary issues. You know, we're not in Philadelphia, but we certainly are close to Philadelphia.
And you must have a lot of Philadelphia patients,
we
too.
We do. You know, we get quite a few patients from.
And from all the surrounding counties, I'm sure.
We draw from 5 states. We have you know, for our heart services, our cancer services, our orthopedics, our spine, we have a much broader draw than just the local region. And for heart in particular, we have a regional draw.
We want to make sure that we have the website up on the screen, www.mainlinehealth.org/Lankanaw, and the phone number for information is 484-476-2000. That's 484-476-2000. That's not Phil Robinson's direct line, however. But if they ask,
They can get to me.
They can get.
Absolutely.
Somebody will find you. You'll be finishing painting a room in the new Heart Pavilion, or what kind of manual labor were you called upon to do? I guess you had to schlep boxes and things. There,
I
right?
didn't schlep boxes, but I helped. I helped with moral support and encouragement.
What are the hours that you keep?
You know, we don't ever close, and so it's a crazy business in that, you know, we are open 24/7, and so one of us is always on call. You know, I have a team of people that work with me, and each hospital does. So one of us is always on call. We do have a lot of morning and evening meetings because we have to meet with physicians, and they're busy in the middle of the day. So, for instance, I have a meeting tonight with some doctors at 5:30 to 7:30. I don't think we realized the Eagles were playing tonight, but
Ouch.
that may not have great attendance, but we do have long hours. But you know, that's just the nature of our business.
All right. Well, our guest today has been Phillip Robinson, who is the president of the Lankenau Health Center, excuse me, the Lankenau Medical Center, and that includes the brand new Heart Pavilion at Lankenau Hospital. And we'll see everybody next week on Bonnie's Beat.